Hey everyone, today is November 29th, and we're all here to talk about a couple of different things. You all most likely got here because you read an article that I published yesterday called Informed Dissent, or informed-dissent.com. And so what I'm doing is an enormously, ridiculously large project. And my question to everybody here is, if you went to a doctor, any other kind of health practitioner, and they told you they're going to write you a prescription, give you a drug, set you up for some kind of therapy, do a test, whatever it might be. If you learned that they withheld information from you, there's potential health problems associated with almost every kind of treatment. Going for a mammogram or a CAT scan or an MRI, those are not without risk. I believe that almost every single interaction that men or women have with their healthcare providers is fundamentally filled with fraud. They tell you things like, well, take this drug. It's what you have to do. There's nothing else you can do. That is a violation of the concept of informed consent. If they say, well, we're going to write you a prescription for this drug, they need to tell you what the possible side effects are. Maybe it's only 0.5% of people get this, that, or the other side effect, but they're obligated to tell you, and they most often don't. They just say, oh, it's safe, don't worry about it. Then they say there's nothing else you can do, as if, the world of alternative treatments out there don't exist. And, right, we all kind of know that you're supposed to get a second opinion, but not a second opinion from the same kind of practitioner. So the purpose of the European Union Citizens Initiative is to get 1 million people in Europe to say to the European Union, we need to take a recommendation and take it to each of the 27 nations and say they need to implement laws to protect our right to be properly informed. Now, the writing of that recommendation is why I'm here. Because whatever might be crafted by the people who are associated with trust and freedom to make that recommendation, well, that recommendation most likely needs to be made in Japan and New Jersey and Washington and California and everywhere else in the world. And so what I'm personally looking for the effort that needs to happen over the course of this next year, in addition to getting signatures. If we get the signatures, we get the signatures. If we get them in 6 months, if we get it at the last minute, we still need to educate people about how their right to be properly informed is violated every single time they have an interaction with a medical practitioner. And there are things that can be done in common law or natural law that are right at the starting point of all of this. And so if you had an experience where you're interacting with a doctor and you feel that they've given you inadequate information or fraudulent information, what do you do? Okay. Now, we can have many, many conversations about that. But what needs to be done over the course of this next year, not, in addition to spreading the word and getting signatures and, informing people about this, is I want to work with people who want to investigate what the laws are in all of the 27 nations of the EU. I mean, that's the pertinent issue. And, I don't read or speak Estonian or Bulgarian or Hungarian or, any other of the languages. So certainly we need people who are willing to do that in their own language. But what I think most people are going to find is that those laws don't exist. And if you were lied to by a doctor. Like many people, billions of people have been misinformed over the last 4 years. If you live in Estonia, if you live in Malta, if you live in the United States or the UK or wherever it might be, what law protects you? That's what this initiative is about. It's about saying, look, the reason they got away literally with murder over these last 3 to 4 years is the law is corrupt or completely inadequate or maybe not even in existence. Okay. So what I'm looking for is people who want to think, want to research, want to investigate and identify, put yourself in the position of you went to a doctor and maybe you had a friend who was very knowledgeable and they were acting as your advocate. I've done that for loved ones where I know a lot of things, and when you go to the hospital or a doctor's office, it's very difficult when you're the one who's not feeling well and you really need an advocate. Now, in the 27 nations of the European Union, are there laws that require, people or enable people to have an advocate with them? Are you brave enough to record what is said when you talk to your doctor? Are they honest enough to invite a recording of that interaction, or are they afraid of it? Okay, so there is an awful lot of work that needs to be done over the course of this next year in preparation of the goal being reached and the purpose being implemented. So the purpose is in every nation of the planet and every state in every nation, every province, to have people look at the legislation that they have in place where they live and say, this is inadequate. No wonder they got away with murder. There aren't laws protecting us from doctors who give us partial information and are not able to be held accountable. Because if you can't find the law, then there's no law for them to break. And that's why they got away with what they got away with. So this is much bigger than just getting signatures. But in terms of the signature gathering, I've tried to make it easy. There's a little flyer on informed-dissent.com. If you print that out, cut it up, you've got 12 little tiny flyers. Or you could do it digitally. And you just say to people, hey, it's very simple. Go to signtheinitiative.com, click on your country and sign it. If you live in the UK or Japan and you are a citizen from the EU, you can sign it. But, I can't sign it, but I'm still working on it because of the issue that underlies why this initiative is being taken. The laws that protect us from a lack of information or mis or dis or malinformation from our healthcare providers need to be strengthened all around the world, not just in the EU. And that's why I'm involved, because here in California, we have some of the craziest laws imaginable. So let me do two things. There's a bunch of comments and such in the chat. If anybody has a question, just raise your hand. And this Zoom will only go for 40 minutes, and then it's just going to end. Okay, it's on purpose. I don't want to take everybody's day. Sometimes these things can go on for hours. But anyone who has a question, raise your hand. You can raise it visibly if you just want to do that, if you're on your phone and you're having a hard time or something. But I have to imagine people have some questions. Pila, the link that you put in the chat is a valid link, but it's not the sign up page. You can get there from there. What I encourage people to do is just remember signtheinitiative.com. It makes it very, very easy. Could I explain the difference between an initiative and a petition so that you can explain it to people who sign it? Number one, the bar is much higher. And so initiative means essentially, I think the easy way to understand this is that it is the people's opportunity to initiate legislation. A petition is generally, hey, we're upset about something and we want to complain and we want to get your attention. And the ultimate goal of this, and I encourage you to go on informed-dissent.com, watch the video and read all the information, go into it in great detail. But the short answer is an initiative is the manner in which citizens initiate new legislation. Now, there's two requests in the European Citizens Initiative. One of them goes through the European Commission to the individual nations of the European Union, because even though the European Union is doing everything they can to take control of everything, they do not have authority in the concept of informed consent. That's supposed to be done on a nation by nation level. So this initiative would result in a negotiation and a discussion, and thus a recommendation from the European Commission to the individual 27 nations. Okay. The second request for transparency of and in the European Commission and the European Parliament and the European Union, that is legislation that would be on a European Union or European Commission level, because they do have the competency to require themselves to be, transparent. Okay, so there's two separate requests or goals of the initiative, and I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, Dwayne, initiatives don't work at all in the U.S. Well, yes and no. I disagree, but let's be precise about it. On a United States federal level, we are not a democracy. We don't have a citizens initiative platform. We can't do this in the United States. On a state level, you absolutely can. Oftentimes it'll be phrased as a referendum. You circulate a petition, you get signatures, you put a ballot, you put an issue on the ballot, people vote on it, and the law gets implemented. So
may I speak?
Please do. Is that Dwayne?
Yep. That is not the way it works, at least in the states that I've been in. I've been in Vermont, and now I'm in a different state in South Carolina, a very different culture. And what you have to do is you have to create activist groups. It's a 3-year process. You have to create activist groups. You get them all coordinated, and then you nurture the legislators that you want to work with until they trust you. You help them write bills, and then you write bills yourself based on your own training and experience. And it's writing those bills and working through Substack, where we correspond back and forth, that we get the bills that deal with the topics that you're discussing. And so I would recommend that you go to my Substack and dialogue.
Please do put it in the chat.
I did.
Okay, it may have flown up there. Dwayne, I want to get to know you better. I am not arguing with what you're saying at all. That is absolutely the process that happens. In a state like California, you can get a petition, have an initiative, put on a ballot, and so forth, referendum, whatever you want to call it. I know people in Tennessee. I don't know if you're, specifically what you're working on. That is exactly what they're doing. They're working very closely with legislators to get that legislation written and put in place. If that's where your knowledge base is, or you're connected to people who have that knowledge base, that's what this Zoom is all about, is to get people connected and identify every set of statutes in every state or nation, or whatever you want to call your legal structure. Somebody's got to sit down and go, hey, what do we want the law to be? Does it exist somewhere? Maybe in South Carolina, they've got wonderfully, powerful either regulations or legislation, statutes that defend um, um,
No, they don't. I've
inform.
written them.
There you go. Boy, do I want to talk to you. Boy, do I want.
And the problem is that the Republican Party is useless to worse. And so you can't go through the party. What you do is you get contacts through the party and you work as a little group that's a throw off of the party, but the party is nothing but an impedance to getting the work done.
Getting to meet you on this Zoom, no disrespect to everybody else. That's the purpose of why I'm doing this, is to make these kinds of connections for people who might. It's a lot of work. It's going to be an awful lot of work to,
I work 40 hours. I work 40 hours a day, and it's been 3 years now.
Okay.
I tell you, I'm retired.
Mm-hmm.
I ran a hospital. I've
Mm-hmm.
also been with IBM where I did AI for 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I know all the ins and outs of the politics of it. And it's a grueling, distressing, but in the end, I hope rewarding for my grandkids anyway.
Exactly.
I may die before this is over.
Pleasure to meet you. My contact information is everywhere. Dwayne, thank you very much for that. I look forward to talking to you more. Anyone else have a question? I'm trying to see if I missed anything. Anyone else has a question, comment? If you're in the European Union, really all you have to remember is two things, or three things maybe. Signtheinitiative.com. Just go there, pull down the menu for your country and fill in the information. Spread the word about that. If you went to a doctor, any other kind of health practitioner, and they told you they're going to write you a prescription, give you a drug, set you up for some kind of therapy, do a test, whatever it might be. In each nation, if you just simply ask yourself the question, what is the law, or does it even exist? And if it doesn't exist, that's why they got away with murder, is there is no law preventing them from abusing us the way they did. Now, until somebody does the work, which is enormous, and I'm willing to start this, journey. In the EU, at the end of the year, if we get 1 million people on board to sign it, we'll have a seat at the table. But more importantly than that are the connections that are made and the information that is shared and the research that is done. And it's a lot of work. Now, the easy task, quite frankly, is, share a couple of websites with people, right? Get them to pay attention a little bit. If you get a signature, that's wonderful. If they go to informed-dissent.com and learn a little bit more, we may run into somebody, who understands the process, like Dwayne and maybe others do. And okay, great. Maybe we'll get some effort from this person, some effort from that person. You know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and then you find somebody who's already working on it. And you go, oh, that's wonderful. Let me learn from them and take it forward. At some point, somewhere, this develops to the point, there's legislation that I know of in Florida and Texas and elsewhere that goes part of the way there. And so I'm just trying to get this huge project started. The simple answer is just spread the word. In the EU. You share signtheinitiative.com or euci.info. And, that's for the initiative to get the signatures. But for the information and for those who want to do the work, that's what this meeting's about. I'll be doing this every day as far as the eye can see. And so I don't know if I missed any questions. If anybody wants to help look through what's in the chat here, if I missed any questions, and anybody who wants to put their contact information in the chat so we can get better connected, please feel free to do so. Trying to see.
Hello, I just have a brief question.
Sure, go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Kim. I'm in the USA, in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And I have read your recent Substack yesterday and watched the videos. I'm I'm unclear how a United States citizen can be useful in this EU effort or other similar efforts.
Okay, I'll try to answer that question, but I think both you and Dwayne might be in North Carolina. So at the very least, message each other in the chat and get to know each other better. Um,
Beautiful.
okay, I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's correct. Number one, very specifically to the European Union initiative, any spreading of the word in any way, shape, or form is helpful. Raising awareness is always job number one. If you know somebody who is a European citizen, we all know somebody somewhere. There may be an area in, near where you live where there's a Polish community or a German community or whatever. And many expatriates, we think of it from our perspective, people go down and they move to Mexico or Ecuador, but they're still US citizens. Well, the reverse happens. Of the 27 nations, there are millions of expatriate European citizens who live in your community. Okay, fine, you can certainly do any of that. But what I'm really discussing is that the goal of the initiative is ultimately to enact legislation in whatever state they may be to more strongly protect our right to be properly informed, fully informed, our right to reject any kind of treatment. That's what informed dissent is. Doesn't matter how good something might be proven to be. No means no. Okay. Now,
Right.
if you want to do that in your city, in your county, in your state, on a federal level, the information is essentially the same. It's getting people to understand what your rights are and investigate where you reside. Are there any laws at all to protect me? And if there was going to be a law, who's going to help write it? Somebody's got to write the darn thing. Now, I'm going to put one more link in the chat, and I can speak it to everybody. It's another piece of this project, which is coming soon. It's not quite yet ready. Hold on one moment. I learned that I can't type and talk at the same time. It's healthfreedombillofrights.com. Now, this might actually be the first step of just understanding and agreeing upon what are our rights and are they being abused and what do we got to do to protect them? And so I'm looking for feedback from everybody. We'll be here again tomorrow. The Zoom is just about over. I don't want to take everybody's day, so I'm keeping these to 40 minutes. But come back tomorrow and invite anybody else. And Glenn and Dwayne, please call me after this and we'll continue the conversation that you wanted to have. Thank you, everybody.